My 6-year-old put a high schooler in the ICU, and the trauma doctor requested her for a case study. The call came from University Hospital at 9:30 p.m. on a Friday night. I was finishing dessert at a mandatory work dinner when my phone lit up with 3 successive calls from numbers I didn't recognize. The first voicemail was from a hospital administrator asking me to come immediately regarding my daughter Nora. The second was from a police officer named Detective Kyle Brennan, saying there'd been an incident at my home involving serious injury. The third was from my neighbor asking if everything was okay because she'd seen ambulances and police cars outside our house. I excused myself from the table, my hands already shaking as I tried calling my wife Julia, who was working the night shift at her hospital across town. She didn't answer. I tried our home phone. Nothing. I got in my car and drove 20 minutes to University Hospital with my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. My daughter Nora was 6 years old, first grade, tiny for her age. She still slept with 3 stuffed animals and asked me to check under her bed for monsters every night. Whatever incident involved her couldn't possibly be what the detective's tone suggested. The emergency room parking lot was half empty when I arrived. I ran inside and gave my name at reception. The woman's expression changed immediately from professional courtesy to something more complex, concern mixed with wariness. She made a call, and within 2 minutes Detective Brennan appeared. He was maybe 40, weathered face, tired eyes. He asked me to follow him to a private waiting room, and my stomach dropped because private waiting rooms meant serious conversations. We walked past the main ER into a family consultation area. Inside were 2 other people, a man and woman in their late 40s, both wearing business casual clothing that screamed upper middle class professionals. The woman had been crying. The man's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping. Detective Brennan introduced them as Gregory and Diane Thornton. Their 17-year-old son Blake was currently in surgery for severe head trauma, skull fracture, brain bleed, critical condition, and my 6-year-old daughter had put him there. I couldn't process the words, couldn't make them fit together into meaning. Gregory Thornton spoke first. His voice was controlled but vibrating with rage barely contained beneath professional courtesy. He informed me that my daughter had violently attacked his son with a weapon while Blake was babysitting at our house. Blake had been hired through a family friend's recommendation to watch Nora and her 3-year-old brother Finn while Julia worked her night shift, and I attended my work dinner. Gregory explained that he and his wife were both attorneys, corporate law. They knew their rights. They knew my daughter's actions constituted aggravated assault, possibly attempted murder given the severity of Blake's injuries. They would be pressing criminal charges despite Nora's age, would be filing a civil lawsuit for damages they estimated would exceed $1 million once medical bills and long-term care costs were calculated. Diane added that Blake had been accepted to Princeton, had a full scholarship, had his entire future ahead of him before my daughter had tried to kill him for no reason. I asked where Nora was. Detective Brennan said she was with a victim advocate in another room being evaluated. I asked what he meant by victim advocate, and he said they provided support for children involved in traumatic incidents. I said I needed to see my daughter immediately. Gregory stepped forward and said I needed to understand the severity of what my child had done, that Blake might not survive the night, that if he did survive, he might have permanent brain damage, that my daughter had shown a level of violence that suggested serious psychological problems, that I should be preparing for my child to be removed from my custody and placed in juvenile psychiatric care while criminal proceedings moved forward. His voice was getting louder with each sentence, and I felt rage flash through me hot enough to make my vision blur. I told him to back away from me, told him I'd listen to the police but not to him, told him his son was in surgery and mine was apparently being questioned and I needed to see her before anyone said another word about charges or lawsuits or custody. Detective Brennan put a hand on my shoulder, said we could see Nora in a moment, but first I needed to understand what they knew so far. He pulled out a tablet and showed me photos. Blake Thornton's student ID, clean-cut kid, handsome, varsity soccer, honor roll, then photos from the scene. Blake on our kitchen floor, blood pooling around his head, massive swelling on the right side of his skull, paramedics working on him. More photos, our cast iron skillet, 12 inches across, probably 8 pounds, sitting on the kitchen tile covered in blood and hair. Detective Brennan explained that based on preliminary investigation, Nora had struck Blake twice with the skillet, once to his leg causing him to fall, once to his head causing the skull fracture. Blake had been unconscious when first responders arrived. Nora had been found sitting with her brother Finn in the living room. Both children had blood on their clothing. Nora had refused to speak to officers, had only asked repeatedly if Finn was okay. Finn had been taken to the pediatric ward for evaluation, and that's when things took a turn I never expected. To see the full story, click the link below or go on my channel.